So today's topic will be all about ego and ego deaths. What are they? How to navigate through these so-called ego deaths? My current experience going through what I believe is an ego death. We need to uncover this ego because the ego is what really stops you from embracing this spiritual path. It's very, very important where you get your information from and who's guiding you through this. I don't know. I feel like when you're new and you're still trying to understand everything that you're going through and you don't have like people around you at all times to share certain things with, it's easy to question a lot of things when you're on your journey. They're probably going to scare you into thinking something's wrong with you. And then if you don't have somebody there like a spiritual healer or somebody who's been through that same thing, then you're going to start to actually believe that person and think something's wrong with you because you're not informed or you're not educated to know like that's normal, you know, and why you're experiencing that. There's a reason why I am feeling like this, and it's gonna allow me to connect more to myself. Spirituality is a spectrum. You kind of just experience a lot of things that a lot of people would think that it's crazy if they didn't really know what it really means. Ultimately, ego deaths are not a casual experience, but rather quite the opposite. It changes the course of people's lives entirely. When one comes through on the other side, having released all the things they've identified with only their true spirit left, they begin to live from a place of pure love. Hello, welcome to the Girl of Your Dreams podcast. My name is Jess, and on this podcast, we're trying to become the girl of our own dreams through spirituality and astrology and so much more. But the main things are going to be spirituality and astrology because those things I think aren't talked about enough, and I want to be a part of that rise. I really do believe that it's going to become more of a priority in people's like self-care routines. I'm also on my journey. I want to take you guys along the journey of what it looks like to really start a so-called spiritual journey or just trying to connect to yourself spiritually and also use astrology for fun. You know, I don't believe that astrology should be a thing that you like dedicate your life to and only live by what your astrology says. I think your astrology is just kind of like a guidebook that you, or just like it's like a tool, you know, it's something that you can look at as you're already on your journey and putting in your work and helping yourself. Yeah, it's always fun to just see what the astrology says because usually it's always right, like you're always on track. But anyways, let me go put this up. I'm very excited about this topic because I feel like it's something that I need so much. Even before when I was doing the outline for this episode and I was researching, I was just getting excited about it because I realized that I have a big problem, and that is my ego. I think my ego is getting in the way of my journey, of this like spiritual journey. And we're going to get into more of the topic now. I wrote a script today, so if I'm looking down or reading, I'm reading my script. In honor or in light of Scorpio season, today we are going to be talking about death. Not physically, no worries, but more mentally and spiritually. We're going to be talking about ego deaths, which is a very common and pretty much a guaranteed thing that people experience when they're starting a new path or a new journey that isn't viewed as normal by the majority or society. That goes against or questions everything that society believes, or maybe that goes against or questions what you have been taught ever since you were born. Put on your Scorpio filter glasses. Literally imagine there's a pair of glasses that will give you a look into the viewpoint that filters everything to be Scorpio themed, because we're going to get deep today, okay? Okay, we're not going to get that deep, but we are going to be talking about death in a spiritual mental sense. And that very much ties into Scorpio. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this because I believe I am currently going through an ego death myself, and it hasn't really clicked until now. I feel like I haven't been able to embrace, accept, and even look into this ego death until now, which is funny because in my energy healing session, this ego death did come up quite a lot, actually. She, my spiritual healer, didn't use those exact words, at least not that I remember. She kept saying things like, you have to let go of your ego. You have to remove your ego. The ego is what gets in the way of fully diving in to your journey. And of course, as all the things she's told me, she was right. So today's topic will be all about ego and ego deaths. What are they? How to navigate through these so-called ego deaths? My current experience going through what I believe is an ego death, and I don't believe it's like a death to my full ego. I think it's just maybe a death or just a different perspective, or like me looking at it more and realizing that it's not me, it's just a part of me. It's more of the human experience part of me, per se. And when I say human experience, when you're connecting more into your spiritual self, you start to learn about the conscious and the subconscious. And I believe the subconscious is more spiritual. It's more of your spirit. It's more of your soul. And the conscious is more of like the human part of you. And so the human part of you is also your ego, I believe. Okay, I'm learning still. We're all learning here. We're doing this together. So I'm going to be talking about my experience with either going through an ego death or just being more aware of my ego and why it has me feeling hella naked. And yes, I just said hella. Especially because I'm not only going through this ego death, let's just say that for now until we dive into it, what it really is. Yeah, especially because I'm not only experiencing this ego death personally, but I'm also doing it on freaking camera in front of who Lord knows who's watching. So yeah, I'm kind of like, it probably wouldn't be the most recommended way to do this because I have to remove myself from whoever the heck is watching this, whether that those are people who's actually genuinely interested or there's people who are like having their own viewpoints and everything like that. So I have to remove whoever is watching this so that doesn't get in the way of this journey that I'm going through, And that's the crazy thing, because my ego is going to come up more when I am just kind of exposing myself, or like I'm not making this more sacred practice. I'm like sharing everything. But I'm also going to talk about something that I kind of like discovered the day after I posted my podcast episode, when I was talking about feeling lonely and isolated on this spiritual healing, all the things journey. So I'm actually going to be talking about how it's changed my views a little on the lonely or isolation phase of a spiritual healing or astrology journey. Or I would just say, really need to say all of that? Spirituality for me is healing and astrology. So I don't think I need to keep saying those three things. So yeah, on my astrology journey. So it's changed my views on it. So why I think that the lonely or isolation phase is actually a positive thing, and it's a positive time instead of what I previously viewed as like a negative thing or a negative experience or a negative time. And even this so-called ego death as well being a positive thing now, I believe. But we'll get into that. And then obviously how this whole topic, ego deaths and feeling lonely and isolated, perfectly ties into the current energy of Scorpio season and the aftermath energy of the lunar eclipse we just had in Taurus. If you're an astrology obsessive person like me, you would know that the lunar eclipse not only had to do with Taurus, but it also had to do with Scorpio as well, that being the opposite of Taurus and the connection between those two. And then I'm going to I'm going to pull a card for a message of the day, and then I'm going to share the comment of today by one of you guys, if anybody commented on my last video, because I'm filming this kind of early-ish. And then that's it. So let's get started. First off, if you're new here, I usually get ready as I'm talking, but depending on a lot of things, it doesn't go as smoothly as always. So anyways, I am going to be doing my hair today. I'm going to be doing something simple. I want to focus more on the topic. So I'm going to do a simple hairstyle. I'm just going to be wearing my hair down. So I'm going to just do my baby hairs, put my hair down. And I think that's going to be probably it. But I am going to try to wear a cute outfit that's maybe kind of like Scorpio inspired. So we're going to get into our sensual, sexy goth girl look. Before we get into everything, I'm going to do my baby hairs really quick, and then I'm going to probably put my hair down because I want to get this out the way so we can really get into the topic. So 1 second. All right, this is the look. I decided to just go ahead and do my full hair because I really want to get into this topic. So I just decided to do my go-to signature thing that I always love, and that's like putting up the little middle center of my hair, leaving some little face framing fringe situations going in the front, and yeah, leaving the back out. I like this hairstyle because it gives me like volume at the top, and I just like how it flatters my face. I'm gonna start off with the topic and then I'll get dressed. I guess I will do that. So let's get into ego and ego deaths. So first off, let me explain to you guys how this whole concept came to me. Yeah, let me kind of take you guys back. So in the last episode, I was talking about how I feel a loneliness and kind of an isolation. Not that anybody's making me feel isolated, but I feel lonely and isolated because I don't have anybody that I could connect with or to talk about my journey with. And when I say talk about it, I don't mean, like I said, talking to it like with my boyfriend, who's always open to listen. It's like I don't have somebody that's on the same journey as me. Like I said, my spiritual healer is, or she likes to call her an intuitive practitioner. I think she uses that title. But yeah, like she's been a huge help for me because she's like way deep. She's on a whole other level. And the things that I tell her don't sound like crazy or anything like that. Like she's helped me feel so normal through everything that I've been experiencing. So I love that. Okay, I had to put this. I didn't realize that my bootleg setup was showing here. So yes, those two red things were bricks. I'm not going to explain it, but let's just say I had to build this whole situation that I have going on here in order for it to hold my microphone because I have a weird setup. And so I didn't know that you guys could see that this whole time. So I decided to put a cover over it that probably looks even more crazy looking. But we're just going to put this for now and I'll figure this out. So anyways, yeah, as I was saying, I just don't have anyone. I mean, I don't have any friends, but I don't also have anyone that's on the same journey. That's like a friend who understands and who's on a similar journey, who's on the same journey, who loves talking about or who's, healing and on their spiritual journey, who loves astrology, and I can just talk about certain things with. So yeah, that part has made me like isolated and also feel lonely. But I'm not lonely. Like I'm happy, I'm in a great I'm happy to be on this journey, even though it's like very humbling. But I'm happy that I have a I'm happy that I have a podcast. I'm happy that I'm able to do what I want. I'm grateful. I'm happy, overall, I'm happy in all aspects of my life, pretty much, except for my friend part, which is like empty, and the social aspect, when it comes to friends. So I know that's something that, even though right now I feel like, it would be nice to have a friend, but is it like a huge deal for me? Not really, but I know that it's important, even though I'm in a happy and healthy relationship and I'm happy with my partner and everything, and I have fun with him. I know that, having a friend outside of that is very important. So anyways, but then also, now that we're on the topic of friends, I just have to say this, like, I'm choosing not to have friends, because I'm also very selective about my friends. Like, maybe that's probably why I don't have friends, because I'm a very picky person when it comes to who I want to call a friend, let alone spend time with, because I think, based off of like my experiences with having friends in the past, and also like essentially losing or ending a very close friend, I had learned a lot. It's essentially like a relationship, you learn a lot of the things that you don't want in the future, that you do and you don't want. And I learned by a lot of failed friendships that I've learned like what I do want in a friendship and what I definitely don't want. And I also think like my trust, I have a hard time trusting people. So yeah, I just don't want to waste my time. I'm very private, and it takes a lot for me to trust a person, because unfortunately I just feel like there's a lot of inauthentic people out there, and I think it takes a lot of work to find people who are truly have the same like intentions and like purity and care that I do. I don't know. So who's like, can I just find my own self? Actually, I like balance. Okay, like I like myself, but like I would definitely, I'm anxious and stuff, so I like a balance. But like have pure and good intentions, and who, I don't know, who just, yeah. So I just feel like that part is hard, and that's why it's like, the concept of making friends. And like I told you guys, I was on an app already, and I met a lot of wonderful girls, but you just kind of it's like dating. You kind of get to just see that there's not enough like deep people who are like pure souls that are really genuine and working on themselves. Like, I just don't know. I feel like how a lot of people feel about the dating world. I feel like that was Friends, and I just kind of like the thought of trying to go through that is kind of like, oh my gosh. So anyways, that's my whole rant about that. So that's what I want to say. It's just like, I'm very particular about who I spend time with. And I feel like I've been gifted, if we're talking about gifts, that I'm able to read people really well. And so it's like, I'm very huge on energy. So I can just tell a lot about a person without them even like saying anything. And I don't know. I think energy is important, and I don't know. So that's a whole rant. So the point is, I'm trying to say, okay, I'm just not lonely because I'm lonely. I'm lonely because I'm picky, and I don't have the time or the energy to go through a bunch of people to socialize, because I'm on a whole journey with trying to help people. I don't know. Okay, let me stop ranting. I'm sounding like a whole brat, and I'm being dramatic, really, for the most part, but the core of what I'm saying is the truth. So anyway, so yeah, lonely and isolated girl on her journey right now as far as her friendship wise. Wish I could have someone that I could talk to, and be like, hey, oh my gosh, Scorpio season. Mercury's in retrograde right now. Like, yeah, this is what, like stuff that people would know, So anyways, I'm done with that rant. So like I told you guys in the last episode, I'm going to be, I said I wanted to get out more, which I attempted to do yesterday. and we're going to talk about that later in this episode. But get out more, get out there, get into the community of people, go to classes, go to areas, go to places that the people like me will be, like yoga classes and meditation classes and blah, blah, blah. And then I said, like, get out there online, find your community, edit who you follow, so your feed can show like the people that you want to attract and everything like that, the community, and get involved in the community. And I did that. So then after, I don't know if it was the day after or whatever, but it was like after I put that episode out, I actually did go through my social media. I started unfollowing a lot of people, but then I started to feel bad. So I'm like, oh shoot, what if I unfollow these people? Then they see that I unfollowed them. Then they think that I don't. Like my overthinker started. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll just mute people. But then I was like, okay, this is taking too much time because I'm starting to feel like, oh, well, should I mute this? So then I just was like, okay, just focus on looking up people, looking at through hashtags and looking up, searching like spiritual community and things that you know, want astrology. And I ended up finding, it took a while for me to find like I don't know how to describe it. Instagram is really weird. And I did this through Instagram. It was just really weird setup. But eventually I found like a bunch of like the community, and I started like going through different people and different pages, and I was like following people. So I followed a lot of people now. So, and I like did mute and / unfollow a lot of people. So my feed and my Instagram is looking good. So that's the first step. Okay. So look, guys, I did something. And I felt really good about that, because now when I open my Instagram, it shows me it shows me astrology and people talking about their spiritual journey things. Now all I see is things about astrology and spirituality pretty much. And then the main people that I still like, you know, like the people that I still like, my comfort people, or like Gary Vee and all the things. I still have like, you know, like my favorite artists and everything, but you know, mostly it's just that. So I feel that feels really good. So the next step I'm gonna have to do is really take the time, which I don't really be on social media that much unless it's for work, to be really honest. I do have like my go-to people that you know, we all have our go-to people that we like and like their stories and stuff like that. But I'm gonna have to get out there and engage in other people's posts, and not be like engaging for them to come look at mine, but being genuine and really like getting out there in the community. So that's my next steps. But yeah, so I did that, and then I went on YouTube and I was like I looked up like spirituality and intuitive. I tried to say words that I would know would lead me to people who's on that same journey's pages, and I discovered a girl named, her YouTube channel is Jackie is Alive, and she like the first video I saw of hers was full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus vlog, and it said big ego death energy. And I watched her video and I was just like, oh my gosh, you get me, because she was explaining her experience through and how the lunar eclipse affected her, and she described it like feeling like an ego death, and something clicked in my head as she was describing it. It was like, I feel like that. Like, yes, girl, you took the words right out of my mouth. So pretty much I want to say that I want to give her flowers as well as my practitioner. I just wasn't when she was telling me, you know, sometimes you need to get reminded, and sometimes like you know, I'm gonna start saying, I feel like I should start saying spirit when I'm referring to like God or the universe, because we all know that I believe in God, and God is like my main like whenever I'm talking about like receiving messages and everything like that, I look at it as God, or like I'm starting to understand the idea of spirit guides as well, which is like what my practitioner, the intuitive practitioner, tells me, that, you know, I have spirit guides, and we all have spirit guides and guides that's supposed to help us on our journey. So I'm gonna just start saying spirit, because I also don't want people who maybe don't believe in God or believe in different other things or have different or other beliefs. I don't want to deter them from, still receiving the message or listening to these videos or whatever, because I'm not a person who judges people on their different beliefs. If somebody doesn't believe in the same things that I don't believe in, if somebody doesn't believe in the same things that I believe in, I don't judge them. I'm like, okay, you are entitled to your own beliefs. That's totally fine, Obviously, in certain situations, like if they're my partner, it will be a lot difficult because that's a romantic relationship. You're spending time with that person. You may grow a family. So obviously it's different. But like friends, I don't necessarily feel like I've had a friend where, I don't know. This is a video. So why am I getting so deep about this? But you know what I'm trying to say, right? This is about spirituality and astrology. This is not about like believing your religious beliefs, So you can have whatever religious beliefs, and this is just to help you, whatever you believe in or whatever, this is just about spirituality and astrology. So I'm gonna start saying spirit when I talk about like receiving messages or anything like that from now on, because to generalize, so it's something that everyone can receive. And I know that a lot of like healers and intuitive practitioners use spirit a lot. So anyways, I found this person's video and it connected with me. And then I was just like, okay, like I felt like what she was saying was right. And it was my first time that the intuitive practitioner was telling me a lot about like removing your ego. You have to remove your ego. Your ego's getting in the way of this and that and that. And so I guess like, oh yeah, that's what I was saying. So sometimes you gotta receive the message or get them, or, allow spirit to show you the messages in different ways for you to actually get it, So I understood what the practitioner told me, but when this girl had put it in a way, like she called it like an ego death, and she was explaining her experiences, it was just like, wow, like I feel like that's what I'm going through too. So I just want to give her credit. Her YouTube video, her YouTube channel is called Jackie is Alive, and I am totally gonna follow her. And she's like an upcoming person that's sharing her journey and stuff like that as well. So I just love that. So I just want to say thank you to my intuitive practitioner. Thank you to Jackie is Alive. Thank you to these 3 articles that we're about to dissect. And I will link all of my sources in the description box below, of course, because I'm giving everybody their flowers, because you can't just do this alone, But yeah, so I saw that video and I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then something started clicking with me as far as like, I remember my intuitive practitioner telling me that I need to sit with and embrace this isolation, like this feeling of being isolated. And it's funny because I took it and I ran with it, and I feel like that's not what she meant. Like even in my last episode, I was like, okay, well, I have to do something about this. I have to fix this. And that means I need to go out and find friends. But really, as I started to really think about it, and I don't know, this ego death video sparked like aha, like I actually finally got it. And I was like, no, this isolation period is essential to my journey, and I need to embrace it, because there's a reason why I am feeling like this, and it's going to allow me to connect more to myself. It's going to allow me to remove this ego of feeling like, oh, I don't know. I just feel like we're going to get into it. But anyway, so it just changed my perspective. Oh, okay. Here's another thing. So then I saw that girl's video and I was like, oh gosh, that's how I feel. And I felt like just so validated. And it's always just nice to see somebody, talk about their experiences. And that's what I feel like. And I hope that some people, the people that you watching this, I hope you feel the same way that I feel, about like sharing my experiences. And then I came across another video that was not the Okay, it was a video that kind of made me upset. Okay, I don't even know if I should talk about this video. I'm not probably gonna shout out the video. It's not that there's any hate or anything like that. I just feel like I don't want them to see my video and think that I'm like coming for them or something, because I'm not at all. I'm just sharing my experience. And I came across a video. It was like a podcast video, and there was two girls, two beautiful women interviewing. One was interviewing a girl who was talking about her experience with witchcraft, which, let's just talk about. I don't do witchcraft or anything like that. That's a whole nother thing. But she included spirituality and astrology in all of that. So that's why I felt like, okay, I felt triggered, let's just say, I guess, because essentially the video was about how that spirituality and astrology is pretty much opens yourself to evil and all the things like that, like the devil and blah blah blah. So and evil spirits and all that stuff like that. And then the girl was saying how her experience doing what she was doing made her start worshiping the devil, and it made her do a lot of things and act certain ways, and how she, it got to a point where it was just not good, and she found God and she started to believe in God. But during her journey with whatever she was doing, she was explaining it because she was including spiritual practices like crystals and meditating and all this stuff, which is really good for you, but she was making that in her witchcraft or whatever else she was doing. She was making that seem like that's what made her choose to worship the devil. And I'm not going to take that from her, because that's her experience. And I don't take, like, she's valid for her feelings and her experience. I'm not taking that away. But she was pretty much just saying how that whole thing, spirituality and all that stuff was making her go away from God and, turn against God and want to worship the devil. And then she ended up like realizing that wasn't good and blah blah blah, long story short. And then she found God, and then she started walking with God and believing in God again. And she's on like this whole different, like, now she doesn't do any of that stuff or whatever. She's just against all things that has to do with that. But it's including spirituality and astrology, because she talked about astrology and how that opens you up to demons as well. And I just was like, I'm a passionate person, okay? If you guys couldn't tell, when you talked about the Aries moon in me, that just lit my Aries moon on fire, because I'm like, I'm not taking the experience from a beautiful lady. I'm so happy that she found God. But I guess I was just very infuriated that it generalized spirituality. Like, first off, in the most respectful way possible, spirituality is a practice that's supposed to enlighten you. Whatever that you listen to be on that spiritual journey, you have to be careful for, because people can feed you whatever. There's a lot of people, like I said, who uses things for good and bad. And I just did a whole video on that, a whole rant video, which we're going to talk about. But yeah, so I just felt attacked, because I'm like, I don't want people to think like I'm doing, I'm on this spiritual journey and I love astrology and I have no connection to evil spirit or whatever. Like, I don't even consume that. If somebody even was spiritual, so-called, and I watched the video and they said I had to worship the devil and stop believing in God, I would know in my head, like, what the hell? See, I'm about to curse. I'm going to know in my head, I'm not listening to this person. This person is freaking on some other crazy stuff, and I no thank you. Like, and I don't know, maybe because throughout my journey, I didn't start my journey looking at it through or finding it through social media. I was, I guess, grateful enough. I'm happy that I actually got a lot of my information from actual spiritual healers and like experienced people. Or healers, people and that's why I really believe, I'm starting to realize why it's important, your source and who you gain information when you're becoming more spiritually enlightened, I guess you would say. It's very important, very, very important where you get your information from and who's guiding you through this, because there could be a lot of people out there, and there are a lot of people who manipulate people and who use stuff like that, especially people who are gifted. Because when I was watching the video, I could tell that the lady was gifted. And when I say gifted, it's just like you have certain abilities and all the things like that. And I feel like, you know, she was just led wrong. But yeah, I just thought it was very unfair. And I was just like, now everybody's gonna believe that. Everybody, based on this person's experience, she's gonna make everybody believe that spirituality and astrology is bad when it's totally not, you know. And it's really has a lot to do with where she got her information from and her own like mind stuff. So anyways, I'm not gonna go into that because I did a whole separate video about that. But I just want to say that just made me realize how much it's important, how I believe people who are on this journey need to look at it like finding a therapist. Like, I think it can be very risky to get all your information about spirituality and astrology even online, because you don't know who is actually a credible source and a valid person to get your information from. And that's why I wholeheartedly believe in intuitive practitioners or spiritual healers, and they have to actually be real ones, you know, because that's who you need to go to learn. Those people would never tell you to worship the devil and tell you all these things about all this bad stuff, because that is the opposite of spirituality. And then she was just saying how that made her not believe in God, and that's her sources. A lot of spiritual people believe in God, and if you don't already have that belief, that's fine. So anyways, I'm getting triggered all over again. So I got triggered because also it's like, how do I describe this? And I'm being super vulnerable. Like, spirituality is a spectrum. Okay, you can do the light spirituality, and that means like you just want to incorporate it into your practice. And then but you can also get deep into spirituality. But that also, you know, if anybody out there knows what intuitive means, and, you know, being gifted and your spirit guides, that's the more like what people think of woo-woo. That's the more like deep stuff that is like disconnects you with what you have been taught. You know, because then you start to know that there are people who are here, that there's God or whoever or spirit here to help you, to guide you and connect you. And that's where the lines can get blurred and people can start thinking a whole bunch of things. But you kind of just experience a lot of things that a lot of people would think that it's crazy if they didn't really know what it really means and stuff like that. So, you know, sometimes when you are in a point in your practice and that you start experiencing things that the normal person couldn't, when I say normal, like not spiritual person would think is crazy or think something is wrong with you or whatever. It's just that you're just becoming more enlightened. So as the more you become enlightened, the more you start to experience things. And if you're getting information, or if you share with somebody who's not enlightened, they're going to probably... Okay, so yeah, they're probably going to scare you into thinking something's wrong with you. And then if you don't have somebody there, like a spiritual healer or somebody who's been through that same thing, then you're going to start to actually believe that person and think something's wrong with you, because you're not informed, or you're not educated to know like that's normal, you know, and why you're experiencing that and stuff like that. So that's why it's just so important to, when you're on this journey, like, I really believe like having a spiritual, like essentially like a spiritual therapist there to guide you through this journey, because you need to be very educated about it to really believe and trust and understand what you're going through. And you can be very open and vulnerable to receiving a lot of things that make you seem like you're crazy and stuff like that. And, you know, so I guess as I'm saying this, you know, parts of her stuff, if I'm being very vulnerable, because I don't always have, and my spiritual therapist, or my the teacher or intuitive teacher practitioner always tells me I can call her if anything, if I have any questions or, whatever. But, sometimes if you don't have people around you, like even some points of her experience was like making me question certain things at some point, lightly. And that's normal, because sometimes people who I don't know, like people have the ability to just make you seem like you're, I don't know. I feel like when you're new and you're still trying to understand everything that you're going through and stuff like that, and you don't have like people around you at all times to share certain things with, it's easy to question a lot of things when you're on your journey, because once again, like, yeah, I don't know, if you just know what I mean. So I guess started to get defensive, and I didn't question because I'm very aware, but I guess I was attacked. I felt defensive, and I felt like my ego made me go and do a whole video about it. And I felt like, oh, I have to do a video now, when really I probably should have just sat on it and just not really felt like I had to like do something. But I don't know, I guess I had to prove myself, or prove that this spirituality and astrology is not what people pointed out to be. And I had to defend myself because I didn't want people to think that I was worshiping a devil, like the whole thing. So I just my ego got in the way of that. And even till this right now, I still haven't looked back at that video. I don't even want to look at it because I think it was a very reactive thing for me to post, because I felt like I was being very general, and I don't know if anybody even received the message. It probably could maybe trigger more people than it received, or people understood. I don't know. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I let my ego get in the way of that. And I also have been letting my ego kind of like creep in, because another big thing that I knew was going to happen, but it's also like, just because something's going to happen, it doesn't like, it prepares you for it, but you still feel the same. You still feel the feelings for it. And another thing is like my channel. It's been like almost laughable how like I've lost a lot of how do you describe it? Like attention, support, views, all the things, engagement. And that is, I guess, have contributed to me feeling more lonely or isolated or disconnected, because when you're online, the greatest feeling is like engagement, because you're interacting with people. And then if it's not engagement, it's like, unfortunately, it's likes, it's views. And if you don't have that, sometimes, because that's the only way you kind of show interaction with people, you start to feel like, at least for me, like disconnected. So as I already knew I was going to lose a lot of people, and I already knew, but like, I guess, it's still kind of, would I say get to me a little bit? It still is kind of like, ouch. Like, that's how it feels. If I could make it feel, if I could put a word to it, I would be like, I'll like say ouch. It feels like ouch, like dang. Like dang. Like dang, like I am alone in this. That's how it kind of feels sometimes. So I mean, there's been people that's been like giving me comments, and I've received comments of people encouraging me and sharing, and those are just like so great. But I'm trying to detach myself from just any validation, and I'm doing this for me, and like I said, I would love for it to like help somebody. That's my goal. That's why I'm even putting it out here, because for whatever, whoever it touches, just like how that girl's video, Jackie is Alive, made me feel. And I feel like that just made me feel so much better. It was just like a nice hug, like, oh wow, I'm not alone. And like, and it's not like she has the hugest following, but even if it doesn't even matter. It didn't matter about her following or how many views she had. It was just like, oh, I resonated and connected with her. So like, I don't know, it just made me feel good and feel good about my journey, and remind me, like, just because you don't have this amount of views or whatever doesn't mean that you're not making an impact, or you're not actually connecting with people and all of that. So I guess like I said, I just feel like there's been something going on with my ego, and I definitely need to remove it or look at it and let it not stop me from continuing to show up here, and continuing to show up, most importantly, for myself, and for my practice, so I can come up here and be like able to share. Because if I'm not doing my part, then I can't like tell you guys or talk about it. So, oh my gosh. So let's finally, after that whole explanation, so now we're here. Now I have 3 articles that I want to go through. And I want to talk about ego and ego deaths, so we can kind of like learn. And if you're going through something similar, or you resonate with me, we need to uncover this ego, because the ego is what really stops you from really embracing this spiritual path and becoming awakening and everything like that. Whew. Oh my gosh. I'm gradually getting hungry as I go over this. Okay, so before we get into the articles, I have 3 articles. We're going to read all 3. I'm going to try to hurry up and go through them as fast as I can, but we're going to dissect them. Or if I have a comment on them, then I will. But I kind of wanted you guys, instead of me trying to be like a teacher, like I said, I wanted us to go through and read and show you guys like what it looks like for me to be educating myself on something that I want to learn about. And like I said, that's what I do. And that's what is important. This is all about, like, this involves your practice and you learning more, is when you like learn about something and you research it and you make sure it's credible sources. And it's usually like websites that I've heard before and that I know are credible. And so I'll like teach myself about it if I don't understand it, so I can understand it. And like I said, it helps because it's something that my intuitive practitioner told me, so I know it's valid. I know that ego is important, and I know that you have to remove your ego. So I'm like, if I want to learn more about that, let me look up ego deaths or removing your ego, and let me see what comes up and educate myself on it. So yeah, I'm gonna get dressed though. Okay, actually, I'm gonna get dressed because I think it's time. I was thinking about doing this. This is the one thing I wanted to do, but I think I'm gonna go get dressed, and then we're gonna get into the 3 articles. Because I need to do. I think it's time. Okay, I think it's time. All right, so I will be back. What do you think? First of all, I love this outfit. I understand if not all people love it, because I went all out, like super punk Scorpio vibes, which is funny though. This is okay. So let me explain to you the craziness of astrology and why sun sign astrology is not enough for you to understand someone. So my boyfriend is a Scorpio. I knew he was not gonna like my outfit because he does not like grungy punk looking like aesthetic. Despite the fact that Scorpio, like, he doesn't even like all black. Like, he thinks that wearing all black is like not his style. Like, he would never wear just all black. Which is so crazy because I love black, but he has a lot of other stuff mixed in his chart. And his Venus sign is very opposite from Scorpio. And your Venus tells you, the Venus is about like beauty and your aesthetics and what you like to dress like and everything like that. It talks about love too, and creativity and everything like that. So it's just funny. And I will be doing a video on that. The person who commented a while ago asking if I can do a video on Venus, all dedicated, and share my Venus sign and stuff, I will. Trust me, I have a lot of videos planned out. So just any video recommendations I will happily accept that has to do with spirituality and astrology. You're just gonna have to be patient with me because yeah, it's probably gonna just take me some time because I got a lot of videos to go through. But a lot of Scorpio Venus is really like it's a lot. I tried to fit in like sex, like sensual, sexy, dark, mysterious, stuff tied with like death or whatever, like that type of thing, darkness and everything. So I tried to embody that. Okay, I think I did a great job. This very much feeds the punk girl that I used to love and look up to when I was a young child, and I still love this aesthetic. So anyways, let's move on. Let's get into our articles. Let me actually put a timer on myself because I'm gonna need to be leaving soon. I have somewhere to go. I always do this to myself. But really, it's just like these episodes go on for so long and I just have so much to say to you guys. It's just like, maybe I just talk so much. So we're gonna put a 20-minute timer. We're gonna read an article titled "Everything to Know About Ego Death, from What It Is to How It Happens." Okay, what is the ego? To understand ego death, you first have to understand the ego. The ego is a sense of self that you develop at a young age. The ego relates to your feelings about your own importance and abilities. It's how you identify and what you identify with, like who you are as a person, whether it's gender identity, what your beliefs are. The ego is the part of the mind that mediates between the conscious and the unconscious, and is responsible for reality testing and a sense of personal identity. You can think of your ego as the image you hold of yourself, which affects everything from how you perceive the world to how you behave around others. These are just a whole bunch of different ways to explain what the ego means, but to sum it up, the easiest way to understand it is the ego is a sense of self that you usually develop at a young age, but your ego can change and get influenced as you get older by like society and your environment. It affects everything from how you perceive the world to how you behave around others. Let me explain like a little bit more about ego. Ego development explains that the ego develops in stages throughout a person's life. These stages are often described as follows. The earliest stage, infancy, is generally known as the oral stage. During this period, a baby may learn to trust their parents and rely on them for survival. The second stage, early childhood, is often called the anal stage. This is usually when children begin to learn how to control their bladders and bowels. They may also start developing a sense of independence. The third stage, later childhood, adolescence, is usually referred to as the genital, or I don't even know how to pronounce the name, Oedipal stage. Oedipal stage. At this point in life, adolescents may develop a sense of identity and sexual awareness, which makes sense. Usually you develop and you grow into your identity when you are like become a teen to a young adult. And lastly, individuals may continue refining their egos during adulthood through various experiences, such as forming relationships and participating in meaningful activities. This was what really made me think. It said, in ego psychology, a person's environment and experiences can impact ego development as well. Positive childhood experiences and a supportive environment may lead to healthy ego development. In contrast, negative experiences and a lack of support could lead to difficulties with self-awareness and personal growth. Okay, this one, listen to this, which is not, surprising, but societal influences such as cultural norms and expectations can also shape the ego. And that stood out to me because that's where I feel like I am. Okay, because I always have like, I don't have an ego necessarily in my personal life because who I'm around and how I grew up was like, I don't feel like I have to defend myself. Like, I feel like I'm okay to change, and the real parts and the internal parts of myself, I don't feel like I have to prove or my beliefs or whatever in my personal life. But as I'm obviously like on social media, and the fact that people have seen a part of me and latched on to a part of me, and I like grew and I gained my following for that, and I'm on the same channel and I'm on the same area where I kind of, you know, grew a following for people who liked me for, you know, what I used to be. It's now like, you know, now that I'm changing, I feel like this ego death, like in a sense, part of me has like essentially went through a death. And with that goes like everything and every person that was attached to that ego, which is all 99% of my following, which makes it be like more like 99.9% of my following, current following, which, you know, sometimes that's why I had a point in my, and if you guys are new here, you wouldn't know. Well, you will see when you get on my channel why I have like a whole bunch of hair videos, and you may look at this following and be like, oh my gosh, this girl has a lot of following, but it's literally like, those are empty followers. Like, they're like, sometimes I really wish that number could go away because it trips me out too. You would think that I've paid for my followers by how like little my views represent my following. And so that's why I really wanted another channel, and I was going to do another channel, but then I was like, you know what? No, I built this channel. I created this channel. I'm able to change my mind and grow and develop. It's called JessCreationss. So it's whatever I decide to create. And that's why I didn't say Jess Hair. I try not to niche my title, my name. So I just felt like, no, you know, me leaving here would have been like me letting people get control of my channel or losing control of my channel and leaving my home. Essentially, it's like literally like having other people make me leave my home. And I was like, heck no, like this is my house. Y'all can leave, and it's okay, with love. I love that you guys can leave because I know the home is not, it doesn't feel homey to you anymore, you know, because it's changing. So now I'm like opening doors to, you know, other people to come and find this home. I don't know where I was going with that, but you know what I'm saying? So I just felt like that's the part of this ego death is I felt like, you know, my old ego, the ego that had the JessCreationss ego that grew that 100K following that you see, was built on societal influences, kind of, and like cultural norms and expectations, cultural expectations or society expectations. And that more so happened like as I grew up, because obviously I've always been who I was, and I obviously gained the following from me being different and getting out there. But I don't know, like, I guess it's, you guys, I don't know if you get what I'm saying. But anyways, okay, so then it goes into understanding ego psychology, the inner self, and the ego. Okay, I like this part. So it says, the inner self can be described as the core of your being and the source of your unique qualities and characteristics. It may be the part of the self that is most closely connected to your innermost thoughts and feelings and represents the true essence of who you are. In ego psychology, the ego can be interpreted as part of the psyche responsible for your sense of self and ability to interact with the outside world. It may mediate between the inner self and the outside world. It may be possible for conflicts to arise between the inner self and the ego, especially when the ego becomes overly dominant, potentially leading to a disconnection from your inner self. This can manifest in various ways, such as unhappiness, dissatisfaction, disconnection, and the sense that you aren't being true to yourself. So it's like you are having an internal battle with who you know you are, your personal, your actual self, to the ego that either your childhood or society created, or just like an old part of yourself that you know is not you anymore, but you should be, or something, you know what I mean? I don't know. Okay, so it says understanding and integrating the inner self to achieve a sense of self-awareness and personal growth can be beneficial. You might do this by taking the time to get in touch with your innermost thoughts and feelings and working through conflicts that may arise between the inner self and the ego. This process may seem challenging, but it can also be rewarding, and it may lead to a greater sense of self-awareness, personal fulfillment, and inner peace. This can be a lifelong process that often requires self-reflection, introspection, and a willingness to learn more about yourself, which is why, which is why I love astrology, but astrology is not the main, astrology shouldn't be your first go-to when you're learning about yourself. It should be like spirituality first, because that gives you really more in tune with yourself. And then if you want to just, have fun with astrology and use it as like a tool or an extra guide, it's also really great. And it says, try to be patient with yourself and be open to new insights, as this process is often transformational and leads to personal growth and self-awareness. Okay, so hopefully that helped you kind of understand a little bit about what ego is. So now we're going to get to what is ego death. Ego death is the often instantaneous realization that you are not truly the things you've identified with. And the ego, or sense of self, you've created in your mind is a fabrication. Fabrication is like a fantasy. Let's look it up. Sometimes I have to look up what certain things mean. Okay, it's a place of fiction. It's fiction. So the ego, or sense of self you've created in your mind is false. In some instances, it can offer a profound feeling of peace and connectedness with all that is, as the walls of separation the ego creates comes crumbling down. In other cases, and especially if your ego resists this death, so if your ego is resisting the death, quote unquote, the experience can be very scary and result in a sense of detachment or dissociation. Often a complete loss of subject with self-identity occurs, causing depression, anxiety, and fear. But the more in touch one is with their spiritual core, the easier the awakening will be. So if you don't accept this death and you try to still keep that ego alive, or keep that ego, so essentially for me, if I don't accept that this is who I am, and it was like that actually, as I was transitioning and I realized that, I didn't want to just do hair content anymore. And then I realized I wanted more from that, but I didn't know exactly what more. I knew I wanted to use my voice more, but I didn't know what that looked like. And then as I, got to this job, and then I learned about spirituality and I started to connect with that. And as I learned about astrology and I started to connect with that, and then I would start putting out little videos talking about it. But then I saw that didn't get as much views as my other old content. Then I would try to conform to that ego, because I didn't want to be I didn't want people to see the ego in me is oh, she fell off. Oh, her views are low. Oh, she's one of those that fell off, what people perceive, what I looked like, what society thought. But I was miserable inside. I was growing more angry and miserable and confused. And, because I was resisting this, I needed to erase that ego for me to be who I actually wanted to be, despite what others, thought. And this could mean, and I'm just giving you an example, on the internet, but this could also be relevant for people who are going through things personally in their everyday lives, of people judging them for being on a spiritual journey or liking astrology and everything like that. So it says, ultimately, ego deaths are not a casual experience, but rather quite the opposite. It changes the course of people's lives entirely. When one comes through on the other side, having released all the things they've identified with only their true spirit left, they begin to live from a place of pure love. So in the summary of that, ego death is the realization that you are not truly the things you've identified with, or you're no longer those things. And the ego, or sense of self you've created in your mind, is false. Okay, so stages you may go through involving like an ego death. Says number 1, the spiritual awakening. The first stage of ego death is the initial moment of awakening in which you wake from the ego's power over you. Number 2 is the dark night of the soul. As you navigate your newfound understanding, you begin to question everything and realize things are not as they seem or as we've been taught. This can feel like a complete loss of identity. The space in between can feel like a death, and it is energetically. Ooh, yeah, that's for dang sure. The third thing is exploration and curiosity. In this stage, you begin to explore more and fill the void with things that are in line with your soul or highest self. This is where I am right now. Well, I'm in two too. I'm definitely in that dark night of the soul thing. It is important to note that although ego death seems like a killing of the ego, what actually happens is a loss of being subjected to its power over you. I like that. As your ego dies off, you start to live from a place of more love and light. And number 4, lastly, soul growth and enlightenment, the place that we all hope to be at some point through all this uncertainty and confusion and loneliness. It says, as the dust settles and you soften into your new way of being, you realize more about your true nature and live in a higher vibrational state. You have cleared many of your old patterns, and you are now embodying much more light in a simpler, more purified, divine you. All right, so that's that article. And then I'm going to close everything up with, I discovered this amazing person that I would literally recommend, and I'm going to follow her too. I found her through like trying to figure out, I think I looked up like what are examples of ego, because I wanted to understand more of like what that is. And I saw on the holistic psychologist Facebook page, she has examples of your ego self versus your highest self. Okay, so listen to this. When you're listening to your ego, you may think, I am my opinions, thoughts, and beliefs. When you're listening to your highest self, you may say, I observe my opinions, thoughts, and beliefs, then question them. Your ego self may say, people are good/bad, right or wrong. When you're thinking like a higher self, you may think people are coping in the ways they know how, including me. I love that. When you're thinking about your ego self may say, I am right. You may think that you're right. You want to prove that you're right, which is, yeah, I feel like I have that a little bit. But really, you should be in the highest self, which is thinking, I have a limited perspective based on my past experiences. The ego self may say, I compare, compete, and perform for validation. Ooh, that's a good one. Your highest self may say, my worth does not need to be proven. Can I get an amen? That's so good. And lastly, your ego self may say, I am reactive. Ooh, that touched me because my Aries moon heard that loud and clear. I am reactive from a space of defensiveness and fear. Let me say that again for those that didn't hear me in the back. I am reactive from a space of defensiveness and fear. That's the ego talking. Your highest self says, I can pause, observe, and have choice in my response. Wow, I'm over here clapping. Wasn't that? That was the perfect explanation and way to sum all of this up. So then in her caption, I'm not going to read all this because I don't have time, but she has a bunch of other things you need to know about your ego. Yeah, she just talks about, there's a whole bunch of great things that I'll link. Once again, I'll have all these sources and everything linked in the description box below. But she did say something that that made me really think about, like, do I want to word what I'm going through as an ego death? And that's only because she says that in the end, she says, we are not attempting to kill our ego or erase it from our experience. We are working to understand the ego, which allows us to integrate it. Hashtag self-healers. So all in all, that has helped me kind of really embrace this stage that I'm at of this looking at my ego, understanding it, and regulating it, I guess. It also helps me change my perspective a little bit about trying to get out of this isolation stage by trying to connect with so many people, which I still can. I can still get out there more, like as I was supposed to be doing, like getting out and going to my classes and getting out there in the community in real life and online. But that shouldn't be like my priority, that shouldn't be like the first, and that shouldn't be number one on my priority list. Or, like I should really embrace this time, to use this time to go within. So, one of the things that the intuitive healer told me was, it would be a good idea for me to share what I do, like share on my podcast. I was telling her that I have a podcast and everything like that. And this is when I was first starting my podcast. And she was like, it would be a good idea for you to share your experience about what you do during your isolation period, because there's a lot of people out there who are in the same stage as you are. And, it'll be helpful to show people like what you do throughout that. And in my head, I guess I took that and ran with it and was like, decided to try to like get that, I don't know. I looked at it as trying to get yourself out there, and you could still do that. But really, during the stages, we need to deepen our practices. We need to focus on trying to establish a routine to where we are being very consistent. Like, these are the times we need to really be consistent with our practices and master that for ourselves. We need to really grow a connection with ourselves and deepen our practice so that we're bettering ourselves for whatever that community is, for, our future communities. Essentially, like, like I wouldn't advise somebody who's trying to date somebody or go out in the dating world if they don't love their self. If they're just trying to seek love because they are lonely, when really they are the ones that need to provide themselves with that love, that will attract them or bring them people that are meant for them, rather than them attaching on to people because of that sense of loneliness, or just to be with someone. And that's kind of how I don't feel like I'm completely there, because I feel like I do. I am getting better at my practice, but if I'm honest with myself, I guess I would be trying to force myself into being social and finding someone or finding a friend because of that sense of loneliness, when I know that I am not. I know that I need to spend more time. I know I haven't mastered, or, I know I could be better with focusing myself, like getting deeper and better with my own practice, and just sitting with my feelings and why I feel isolated. And like moments like this, like if I was out there trying to be super social just to feed my loneliness or whatever, the isolation part, I wouldn't have discovered this, I wouldn't have thought about my ego, or I wouldn't have questioned myself and really questioned why I feel the feelings, or what's coming up around this time, So everything happens for a reason, and I guess I just needed this period. And I guess this is also my best way to tell you guys, like, I still haven't went out anywhere. And I guess, it'll happen when it's meant to happen. Funny thing is, yesterday I tried to do that. I tried to get out. I was about to go to this yoga class. I was dressed and everything. And the moment I started walking out the door, I got a really bad headache, and it just grew. And then I went to my car and I was like, okay, if I get to my car and I have my keys, because sometimes I don't have my keys and I have to turn back, and I'm going to take this as a sign. And I went to my car and I didn't have my keys. So and then when I ran back into the house and I was about to just go oh no, I didn't have my yoga mat. So then I had to go back upstairs and my headache just started getting worse and worse. And I was just like, I'm not doing this. I'm just not. And then I was hungry. I was rushing. It was just like I'm forcing something. And I just feel like during this period, it feels like every time I try to force something, it just falls in my face and just doesn't work out. So I think I'm just going to embrace the point of all this is I'm embracing this time of feeling isolated during this journey, as far as, not having other people to share it with, as of right now, and I'm not going to try to force things or force myself to connect with people or force being out there in the community. I'm really going to just try to focus myself and use this time to really strengthen my practice and that I think I need to make that my priority. And should I still, make sure I leave the house once or twice a week to get out there and do the things that I know that's going to feed my journey and help me, but also, may help me connect. I'm not doing it just to get out. I'm realizing that, yes, doing yoga would be great so I can better my practice. So going to a yoga class would be great so I can be guided by a professional in person, rather than I'm just going to the yoga class because I may run into someone that I, can maybe potentially my friend, and that's how I would think about it. I wouldn't think about my benefit. I would be like, oh, well, how can this connect me with this person? And then that's like you trying to latch on to somebody for desperation. And then that's how you end up latching on to the wrong people and all the things like that. So that's the conclusion of all of what I've learned, and that's it. I gotta get ready to go. Let's get into our message of the day. I hope that all of that made sense, and I'm sure it did. So I'm just gonna embrace being lonely. I'm just kidding, but you know. Thank you. Okay, I'm scared because I don't want to be freaked out. Whenever this stuff is accurate, it's only one card. Okay, that's fine. Okay, the message of today is clear the past. Clear the past. To flow in spontaneity and synchronicity, your guides advise you to forgive those who have hurt you and free your attention and energy from the past. It restores your vitality and awareness of higher vibrations. Nothing positive comes from holding on to the wounds of the past. They're just preventing you from experiencing the blessings and guidance of today. Notice what resentments and old angers are burning your heart. One by one, abolish these psychic chains by forgiving those involved, including yourself. Acknowledge the gifts each past injury has offered you. This will allow you to forgive more quickly. And if you're stuck or not in the mood to forgive, fake it. Even pretending to forgive sets the wheel of healing and higher vibration in motion. This doesn't mean you condone anything unjust or feel it was okay for anyone to injure you. It simply means that you're ready to move past these mistakes and seek a higher and more loving vibration. You can't reach what your heart seeks as long as you remain physically attached to past wounds. If you seek justice, ask your angels to render it and let go. You will immediately experience a lightening of heart, a deeper connection to your higher self and your guides. In this lighter state, your guides can direct you far more easily to what will bring you peace and calm. All right. So we're clearing our past, which, could definitely align with what I'm saying as far as if I'm reaching. No, but yeah, letting go of our past selves, letting go of that ego. All right, so that was great. Now we're gonna look at see if I have any messages or any comments for the last episode, which I have not looked at ever since I posted that one video. I have not looked at my channel. I don't even have Instagram on my phone. Okay, no comments on my last video, which is okay. We're pushing the ego aside. No worries. But yeah, so I hope anything from this video resonated with you guys. I am going to really soak all of this up. I probably may have to rewatch my own video or reread these articles, and because you'll need a constant reminder. You'll always have to, maybe even writing down, taking notes for this video would be better to help you retain it, because it's a process, and it's hard to obviously detach your ego from things. It's not easy. It's not what comes natural, and it's gonna be a process, like this whole journey is. So hope you enjoy. If any of this resonated with you, in honor of Scorpio season, comment a black heart. Let's see how many black hearts we can get in the comments. If anybody even watched this far, and for an extension of healing and letting go of our egos. Clink. All right, much love, and I will see you next week, next Tuesday.